I often lose the first game of the series.
It's fine, bro.
Just saying, guys.
Now we get
That's why our BO1s went that way.
That's why my BO1s list here last year than the way.
Get the control over the dragon area like we usually see, so instead, oh no! What? No, we clicked
Oh shit, I'm trolling. Oh my god, I'm trolling so hard. I misclick, I don't know what happened.
Kalista knows I'm here in the pit.
Alright, go Kalista.
Nice fight. You only got 1 HP.
Careful.
Yeah, don't trade.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. We can win. Good job, man. Okay, let's look
Back to the LEC, we have Adam joining us for the first interview here in the playoffs. First win secured in a BO3. I don't know if you remember, but last week on the PGL, I asked you if it was going to be 2-0, 2-0.
Yeah.
And he said yes. Even this morning, earlier today, you were very confident coming into the series, so predictions have gone right.
Yeah, I mean, like it's nice that we got pretty confident into this best of 3, right? Because we knew that we were better than Heretics, and all we had to do was just to show it, right? Maybe the second game was a bit unfortunate. I think we've been trolling so hard, actually, it's crazy. But still good stuff to review. I think our first game was pretty decent, and we'll see what happens next.
We love a humble king, but also you're talking about the second game especially, maybe a little bit overconfident, a little bit overheated coming into that, and that is something potentially that we were worried about when you guys were going into this, because we heard you being very confident. How do you as a team stop yourselves from actually just going like YOLO?
I mean, I wouldn't say that we went YOLO second game. I just think that, I mean, they actually outplayed us really hard from early to mid game until they threw out Nash, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, we didn't kind of win the second game, like they just kind of give it to us, which of course I will take it, right? But it's a bit sad from this perspective, but also it's a good point that we can improve.
All right, and then looking at your pick specifically on that first game, you played Rumble in top lane, something that we haven't even seen you play at Worlds. So what's been going on behind the scenes? What are you guys cooking?
Yeah, that's
no
true.
leaks, though.
I mean, it was my first Rumble game in my entire career, so yeah, I'm really glad because I kind of overcome this psychological barrier that you can have when you try to play a new champ on stage.
Yeah.
I think it worked pretty well. I'm really happy about that, and hopefully what I'm preparing can be for the future can be even more useful, you know. So really looking forward to it.
You did really well. You said it yourself, and absolutely that Rumble game was incredible. But unfortunately, you didn't get Kia Player of the Series.
Yeah.
It was Nuke. Are you happy, sad about that? Do you have something going on behind the scenes, like a bet on who can get most?
I mean, I think I actually deserve it, but I will gladly give him to him, right?
Right.
But yeah, congrats, Nuke. We're kind of competition, you know, like who will get the most player of the game, player of the series. I don't know how it is right now with Nuke and me, but I think like we're the first.
All right,
but,
yeah.
I will beat him.
You gotta go back and calculate
Of
that.
course,
You gotta get on your A game. Really quickly though, SK, Vitality, who do you want to face?
Personally, I would like to face SK because my friend Niski, naturally.
Yeah, okay.
But at the same time, I think Vitality has been doing quite great. And at the same time, SK hasn't been doing like that much great lately. So I think it's going to be a great best of 3.
Absolutely. Well, this was a great best of 3 as well. And the
That's
2-0. Thank you so much
you so
for
much.
the interview. We're going to be heading back over to the analyst desk with Laure. So please, lovely, do take it away.
Thank you so much, Ginny. Always nice to hear from Adam. And Vedius will be the first team that will play on Monday. But who will be the second one, guys? As G2 and GIANTX will battle for a spot on Monday as well. And I have to ask, we've been criticizing G2. They ended up first in the regular season. Do they feel like a first place team, finally?
I mean, personally speaking, as a holistic team, I still don't feel like they do. Oof. I think top side and bot side has been making a lot of mistakes where they've had to been saved by Yike and Caps as a mid-jungle duo. I would actually say that Yike and Caps has been overperforming in terms of what they need to be in the team, where they've really laid out a good amount of 1v9 performances.
I was just thinking, if you take Caps away from G2 and put in almost any mid laner in the league, I would be a little worried as a G2 fan coming into this one, because like you said, there's just been so many things missing compared to what we're used to seeing from them in the last year.
I mean, the Caps factor is always something on course, but on the GX side of things, who's been the factor? Who's been the X factor of the team? And do we feel like this team is actually solid enough because they clawed their way into playoffs last week. But have we seen enough from them?
I mean, personally speaking, I've really been loving their bot lane lately, and I think IgNar has been a fantastic addition to that team. Not only just because he brings a lot of experience, specifically against G2 if we think back to Worlds.
We don't talk about this.
Yeah, we don't talk about it, but also from a champion pool perspective, I think he brings a lot of spice. He's always been a player that's been willing to bring out super aggressive picks. I thought he had a great week 1 with his blitzcrank performances. He's willing to take charge in bot lane. I think that's something Patrik's been missing in the support role as well. The fact that he can now play Kalista, Draven, and then be aggressive down 2v2.
I'm looking forward to seeing the jungle matchup personally, because I think Peach has adopted a bit of a different style compared to what we saw from him last year. He's gone from playing farming simulators and now actually playing PvP and looking for a lot of action.
Yeah.
Yike on the other side looks pretty great on stats, but still hasn't really played up to expectations, I would say.
No, but it's not Yike on his own. It's Yike and Caps for me. And that's where you want to take your eyes at when it comes to G2 today. I think it's going to be about all the mid jungle here, and this is where they should focus on, GB.
No, I completely agree, but I also think that it's harder to jungle if you have losing lanes. We've seen Yike get invaded quite often if his bot lane fell behind, and then suddenly Yike couldn't play the game. He started losing camps. There goes my red buff, there goes my Raptors. Super difficult to stay up, and I think that's also where GX will have to pinpoint their point of aggression. That will have to be towards the bottom side. I'd love to see them try and expose the fact that the G2 bot lane has been a bit shaky. I'd love to see them try and attack with IgNar specifically and go for the outplays in the 2v2.
And I feel like it's interesting because we see it right here. Last year, it was near impossible to kill Hans Sommer. He was always on point positioning-wise, but now often people just go directly to the bot lane for free kills because his positioning is just completely off so often. And this is going to be so key for G2. This guy is going to have to perform today because with the way IgNar and Patrik are playing, if he keeps dying this much, they're gonna get destroyed.
Yeah, especially because, I mean, at first they did fine against the GX bot lane, but then they started throwing a bit. But it's also an overconfidence that we see. And some of the clips we just rolled out earlier, it was really Yike being on the top side. They still play too aggressive when they don't have the jungle pressure. And you now then pair it in the fact that Patrik and IgNar has been doing as well as they have on specific champions like Giniro as well to bring out the aggression options that we've already talked about for IgNar. It is going to be incredibly pivotal that you get your bot lane ahead because in the past, as Broxah mentioned, very G2 heavy, not so much anymore. But for GX still, that needs to be a point of attack.
And I think from the side of both supports, it's going to be interesting because I like to think of the best Patrik days when he was playing with Mikyx. Now he's going to be against Mikyx with IgNar, and I think both supports, with how aggressive they've been and pivotal they've been in the past, is going to be a matchup both in picks and playstyle. That's where you want to keep your eyes at, in the bot lane.
Yeah, definitely. These guys are very aggressive and the team heavily relies on them getting an advantage and pushing it to the rest of the map. And bot lane on G2's side doing so poorly compared to last year is a big part of why Mikyx hasn't been able to be as dominant, why G2 hasn't been as dominant, because if you're not always pushing and pressuring, Mikyx can't be unlocked as much. And for IgNar, well, him and Peach, it seems like their synergy is really coming together, so I'm super curious to see how they're going to abuse G2's weaknesses.
And story-wise, I'm really happy that we see IgNar against G2 because of what happened at Worlds, but I'm especially excited to see IgNar versus Hansama. I know it was ages ago, but this bot lane made EU dreams in 2017, and seeing them facing off against each other on the Rift is always something special.
Oh, absolutely. They kind of paved the way for the likes of the future stars like Caps, like Broxah as well, coming in as well in 2018. Really starting to...
we made it to quarters in 2017 too.
Yeah, but that wasn't against T1, so that was different. But still, my point still stands. Listen, I'm just thinking back to 2017.
I will let you debate backstage. The series is about to start, so let's get to it with Hysterics. Back to you guys. Oh, that's cute.
I like that. That's a nice name. I was backstage and I'm like, oh, Vedius, Steri Vedi, I don't know. And Laure comes out straight away with the best one we've heard so far. Yes, we are. Hysterics?
That's it. You finally got it.
It was so good. That's our name apparently now. Can't beat Medi Vedi, but at least it gets somewhere there to get us into the next game.
Yeah, I'm excited to cast. We've got a banger on the docket with G2 versus GIANTX. We did get to see them play just last week.
True.
It did go in the favor of G2, but it was not a one-sided stomp as we kind of expected. In the bot lane, it started very strong in favor of G2, but then Peach, with his early game pathing, found great ways to punish down towards the bot side of the map. And I think that Piedra's like a really important factor in a lot of their wins that we saw from last week. He seems to have a lot of control and seems to be the driving force behind GIANTX's good early games. So I think spotlights will be on him, working with IgNar, seeing what they can do, whether or not they can find those same punishments onto G2's bot lane, and if they can find a way of stopping Caps, because his LeBlanc last week was the bane of their existence.
It was, and I will say with Caps as well, the consistent part of G2 through thick and thin through these weeks. And a side note, if you haven't been watching that last week and you're not really up to date, G2 finished first, right? They got the first choice coming off the bat. They naturally picked GIANTX, they picked the 8th seed. I think the biggest thing to note is that G2 were back in that last game as well. They finished off on a very high note with that bottom lane performing well, being a bit more consistent than they were in the early game, because that's what we saw in the other games. That inconsistency made life a little bit difficult for them through the regular season.
I mean, what I will say about G2 is that it seems that their mid-game comes across as the strongest that we've got in Europe. Obviously, BDS sitting at the top there with them with their fantastic team fighting. We got to see that fantastic team fighting in the previous game, but the way in which G2 consistently holds on to these, either keeping the gold even or even with gold leads, even though they're kill deficits or it doesn't feel like they're in full control of the map, it's just because they make such great macro decisions in that mid game. And we've heard so many interviews, so many comments from them talking about how that has been their focus for this split. But that doesn't mean that there are other elements that can't be exploited, like this laning phase that has been a point of contention for them throughout the split. So let's see what they bring us. We are entering playoffs, the debut for both these teams in the best of 3 for Winter. And I'm very excited to see what they've been cooking. We're on a new patch, Hysterics. We're getting ready to see what new champions these teams have prepared for us. G2 are no strangers to cooking, but we've got a lot of innovators on the side of GIANTX. IgNar, he loves to defy the meta. He plays what he thinks is good. And Patrik is a very versatile AD carry that, I mean, he's played a wealth of different champions this split alone.
Let's not pretend on the other side they're not innovators down there as well. I mean, Mickey's been in the kitchen for years, man. Like, the Zyra came out already this split. We saw the first Nico support in the history of the LEC, apparently, as well. That flew through outside of the normality. I didn't even mention the Sona Seraphine lane.
Oh,
that
yeah.
they played.
We like to forget that one.
Yeah, we put that to the side a bit. But the point is, I mean, both these bottom lanes are cooking. I was giving it the name as Vedius and I were warming into this one. It's like the ex-girlfriend bottom lane. You know, everyone's been with each other. You're like, oh, Han Summer back with Mikyx, just like he was in 2018 Misfits. And we can talk more about that. We can talk about more about the gossip behind the scenes. But in our 14.2 patch, starting with G2 and GIANTX's run here in playoffs, we see some familiar bands, especially targeted towards IgNar. That one by G2 was Caps, or one of Caps' best champions, but taken off for good measure.
Interesting. So it's G2 that's going to be taking the LeBlanc away. Jackie's did show us his LeBlanc last week as well, to some good success. That's not going to be available in this game. So things like Ashe are still up and available. Caitlyn, at the beginning of the year, we thought was going to be super high priority, but Varus becomes the next big champion that everyone wants to get their hands on. So what is the priority here for G2? Are they just going to look to lock that in? I was about to say, will it be the Maokai? Because Yike, bless him, he's often put onto this responsibility of being that frontline engage. We know him when he debuted last year as a player that loves to carry. When given resources, he can be a very big carry player. But right now, the expectations in this first game are we want you to provide that utility. But I'm surprised Varus falling away in terms of priority. It really does feel like the strongest AD carry right now. I was speaking to a bunch of different pros backstage ahead of this game, and I was like, what do you think the best answer into something like a Varus is? And a lot of them were saying, like, honestly, like, the laning phase can be really difficult. You often get outranged. Ezreal is one of the few champions that you can just kind of weather that storm, and you have pretty good scaling later on into the game. So GIANTX suggesting that they're anticipating a Varus to come out from G2, but also maybe indicating that they don't want to prioritize the Varus themselves. Only a single game from Patrik on the champion this split so far. But now they're kind of asking G2, are you going to lock in the Varus? 3 games from Han Summer so far this split. Definitely no stranger to the champ.
I'm seeing the difficult seeing Patrik diverse in champion pool, being one of the biggest in the AD carry position. Meantime, Senna is left open. I think it was backstage, you know, Treats was mentioning, like, well, Senna's still very strong.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we haven't walked away from that. Senna's still there, and apparently Hwei is as well. This can go mid, but this can also go support.
Okay, but bear in mind,
with Senna,
the combinations here, this is 3 flex picks. Maokai can be support, Maokai can be jungle, Senna can be AD carry, or it can be support. Hwei can be mid lane, or it can be support.
Holy moly.
So we don't really know what G2's cooking with their draft right now. They have a lot of options. My speculation would be that this is a Senna AD carry with Hwei support with Maokai jungle. That's my guess right now. But truth be told, it could be any sort of combination.
Let's see what GIANTX think, first of all. The Gnar gets locked in, by the way. A more standardized looking draft with less question marks from the red-sided team. But now it's just about what they start banning away, because it'll give them an idea, or at least us an idea, of what they expect everything to be.
For those that don't remember, last week, Odoamne had a stellar performance on his Gnar.
Got them through against Rogue, right?
Exactly, right? It's a very comfortable champion for him, something he has a long history on. And by locking it here, they can also pinch that pool. And I thought they would actually start banning away some top laners, but instead they're going to target this jungle, which does suggest that they don't think that Maokai is necessarily in the jungle.
Yeah.
They're suggesting that it's Senna AD carry, Maokai support, Hwei mid lane.
Hwei mid, right.
But this just goes to show the frustration of this first 3 rotation from G2. You really don't know where anything is going right now. With the Nico now banned away, they want to try and mitigate one of Jackie's best performing champions that we've seen from him this split. We have been seeing a lot of Ezreal from him as well, so I wonder if G2 will look to take that away from the pool.
I do like the research, though. 44% of the time, this champion is banned against GIANTX, and Jackie's has only been given it twice. So, again, another time to deny, as you said, one of his best champions that he also debuted on as well. But as we go through an engage tool taken away, it's a support.
Okay.
So, again, they're like, hang on, just in case. Just in case. It could be Maokai jungle. They still don't have a support. They leave Hwei mid. It's good. I mean, the fact that you're keeping them guessing, you know, like last game, or last series rather, we saw the flare-up of opening with the Ezreal, then the Kalista very early on. And it didn't leave too many question marks for BDS to deal with. This time for GIANTX, it's definitely the polar opposite, isn't it?
Alistair going to be banned.
Now
all right. Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know what your priority is now. I guess you lock in a... Oh, it's Yuumi. She's back. I heard no cheers in the crowd. Absolutely none.
I heard someone get disappointed.
Yeah. They're like, oh no, she's found her way back.
God, Ezreal, Yuumi.
Well, you want to talk about scaling. I mean, Yuumi, one of the best scaling supports in the game. We're going to have Senna versus Yuumi.
Yep.
All right, Ezreal Yuumi, it's a tried and true combo, very long range, has a lot of utility. If they lock in, this doesn't clear anything up. Is there?
Okay.
We've got
what does that do for
Yasuo.
You? Broken Blade Yasuo top, right?
It has to be an old school counter into the Gnar.
Very true. And then we got Maokai bottom, right? Hwei mid, because Rell goes jungle. Well, Rell could
I think you're right. I think it's Rell jungle, Maokai
surely don't
support.
put Rell in a fasting in a Senna lane.
No, I don't think so. I would agree with you. I think that they're going to put that the Maokai in support.
What year is it? Where are we? What is this? All right, Vedius, you got a lot of work to do.
Ahri did get buffed on 14-2. She had her E cooldown reduced because it's quite hard to find nice haste on Ahri builds right now.
Yep.
I mean, GIANTX, they have a great pick composition. It's pretty good at skirmishing. I think in the early to mid game when you have Xin Zhao, Ahri, you have a very easy mid jungle to play through. And we heard the desk talking about it. Mid jungle, I think, is a really important role because of how much it can impact that bot side of the map. And when we think back to last week, GIANTX, they've decided on a very safe bot side of the map, but there is very real risk of dives. You've always got to be careful of that. G2 love that level 3 full clear bot side into early pressure. So by going for the Ezreal Yuumi, they've clearly chosen to take a little bit of a step back and have a few more options to be that bit more defensive. But I think that G2 have a great scaling composition. It's a very traditional front to back. You've got a Maokai and you've got a Rell, very easy engage. You've got a very prominent side lane threat in the form of this Yasuo that could be problematic the later the game goes, but Ahri should be able to match in terms of wave clear. I mean, I'll tell you one thing, we've got a very different meta going on to the rest.
Thank you very much. Coming into this, I thought we'd get same old, just run through, and we've had a complete overhaul. With G2, you kind of expected the points, but to be fair, GIANTX in their debut playoff series here in Winter 2024 have also met them halfway in our first Yuumi in the LCS or LEC for this year, by the way. They've had it in LPL once and LCK too, but the West debuts, and it comes from IgNar, who has been one of the best engaged supports this split by far. His Blitzcrank has been incredible. I mean, IgNar, we remember even at Worlds, we could flash back and say that his Alistar kind of hurt EU very decently on NRG.
Very true. I'm excited to see what they can do. All right, so Yuumi back on the Rift. Obviously not a fan favorite, but still.
Good.
Strong scaling champion.
Very strong stuff.
I think it complements a lot of champions on the side of GIANTX as well. True. In particular, the Zhao. When you go for an engage, having a Yuumi on top of you provides that extra utility, that extra defense as well, the heals, the sustain. Can be very, very valuable. It also pairs it very nicely with an Ezreal. It gives you a lot of long-range poke and also a lot of safety in these team fights. But there's a lot of utility on the side of G2. This Maokai ultimate, this Rell ultimate. These two frontliners and supports get way more gold now, which means that we're seeing a lot more damage supports, you know, because now they can actually get that first or even second damage item on top of things like the Zaxax. But for tankier supports, these engage ones, oh, they get so tanky, right? Like early Frozen Hard is a very cheap investment that gives you a lot of utility in frontline. It's 2,400. It was 23 before it got nerfed a little bit.
Okay.
So it's a very low cost item as well.
Yep.
Yeah, we look at these early paths, we can see it's going to be Yike doing a full clear towards his bot side. A ward was dropped from the side of GIANTX towards his Raptors, so they should spot him out there. Meanwhile, on the top side of the map, G2 getting the same information onto Peach. They know that he's doing a full top side, so...
Great try.
And Caps already taking advantage of the passive there. How familiar... We cast Hwei together, didn't we? We had a lot of fun.
We cast the first Hwei. I didn't even bring up the cheat sheet again, you know, with the 10 different abilities.
Do you know all of the ability names?
Severing Bolt. Nice. Devastating Fire is the QQ.
Yeah, the QQ.
God, we're doing this again. Molten Fissure, the QE.
Nice.
And then... God.
The rest.
The rest. The Orb. Harbor's Orb.
That's fine, that's fine. As the game goes on, I'm sure they'll all come back to you.
I hope so.
He's a great scaling mage. I think that he has some crazy damage in the late game.
Yeah.
I think one of his biggest weaknesses is he doesn't have the most mobility if he gets ganked, especially against champions like Ahri and a Zhao. He can be in a lot of danger. But at the same time, if you play him well, you have a lot of tools to get out of some sticky situations. The EQ combo, the fear that he can apply. Oh, I like that combo. You hit him with the EE, then you also have the WE, and you hit him with the QE, so it's...
Oh, like that, Betty, with the passive. You know, last time we cast Hwei, you spent the first 2 minutes telling us and showing us how much you know of this champion.
I mean, it's
a lot of our
the best way to utilize this champion in the early game is really taking advantage of that passive, proccing it as often as possible, because the extra damage you get from it is crazy. And you can see Caps doing his best to fully utilize it. Ahri's wave clear early on is not that strong, but here comes Peach.
We talked about his aggression. What can he do? Caps has got backup, though. All you need to see is Yike flee on in, and rather, the fear is there. Out of range from the spear. Yike's taking the damage. Caps can't help out much yet to save his mid laner. It cost G2 their first blood.
I mean, we talked about one of the biggest strengths of this GIANTX roster is this mid jungle. Yike tried to provide cover. I feel like Caps was pretty safe, but then Yike chooses to go in anyway. Very disconnected from his mid laner. And GIANTX are there to punish. Great job from Peach and Jackie's. And Jackie's, who was in a struggling 1v1 matchup, now gets himself double buffs.
Yep.
And he can now push out this wave and get a comfortable back.
Well, I mean, opening up, especially when Jackie's someone we talked about at the start of this split with his debut as a rookie, had some big pop-off performances on the Nico. It's been few and far between. I think that's what makes GIANTX such a fun team to watch, but also concerning if you're a fan at the moment. You never know who's going to step up, but you also never know who may be lacking. The team's got a lot of development to make do, and especially with some of the names, you know it can happen, especially with Patrik and IgNar in the bottom lane, especially with Odo. We've highlighted Peach. Jackie's just like that missing piece that could actually turn them into a 4th, 5th place team, maybe even higher, depending on how far they'll go. But at least opening up here in this series, the first kill over to Jackie's, especially when he's close to level 6. Great charm there. Means that this Ahri is going to be a bit of a nuisance. Because remember, Hwei does not have mobility. That dude is stuck where he stands unless he puts a puddle down and starts running on it. And some reason that gives him movement speed.
Sure.
Outside of that, he ain't getting out.
Really like what Peach has done. We talked about it before we got into draft. I think this man was so instrumental in their 3rd week of the LEC when they were able to get those 2 very important wins. They did fall short to G2 just last week, but overall, they... I think that this man in the jungle just does so much for their early game. Their mid game is where we often see GIANTX make a lot of fumbles. Sometimes their objective setup isn't the the strongest, and sometimes they take fights that aren't really optimal for them, and that's where teams have found windows to punish them. But we'll see what they've been able to work on with this week to prepare specifically for G2. Again, some nice trades coming out from Caps, but Jackie's with the red buff, the level advantage as well, really taking back control over this lane. Caps now hitting level 6, and Jackie's already looking for a bit of a roam, seeing what information he can get.
Doing exactly what you can do as an Ahri player. Lost Chapter already picked up. No massive ring picked up yet, though, as we look for the engaged bot side. Peach is running in. He has Flash available, but Hans and Mikyx already outside of range. So the 2v2 continues on. No big discrepancy, no big lead down there. And you can say the same about any lane except for mid due to that kill. But the early game is going swiftly enough as Dragon gets started out in the meantime, with Peach taking that out, with Yike waiting for a mismove from GX's bottom lane.
Look at mid lane though, it looks like Caps is first to the wave, should have an ability to collapse first, but Yike saying, I don't think we're strong enough to fight this. This is Zhao. You look at the item discrepancy, Tunneler versus boots and a cloth armor.
Yeah.
You know, we'll pass on that one for now, we'll just give over the Dragon. Overall, a fair trade. Grub secured by G2. First Dragon secured by GIANTX. Small gold lead in their favor. But overall, things looking pretty good for GIANTX.
You know what I'll say about this draft, Betty? How annoying is Yasuo versus comp? Like, he puts up the win wall. Ahri, Ezreal, Yuumi, even Gnar with his poke mitigated as well. I feel like Broken Blade could be a thorn in the side. It's a big if, though, as he starts hitting onto Odoamne. His laning phase this split hasn't been so great. Like, a lot of people were like, oh, maybe we'd put Broken Blade in our top tier list. I would not.
Oh, you would?
I would not. I would not.
I think he's definitely in the conversation.
He can be in the conversation, but I don't think he beats people like Irrelevant Adam.
Well, I mean, that's the big debate. I was having that debate earlier. But I mean, I think that Broken Blade has definitely had some high highs, especially when I think back last week to their series versus GIANTX. His Cassante was really significant in their win overall. And I think that, again, I definitely agree that he hasn't had the strongest laning performances consistently throughout the split. But it's one of those things where it's always hard for me to judge teams in winter because there's all this synergy, teams slowly forming their identity, figuring out how they want to play, and then it's these best of threes, these playoffs where we really get to see teams shine. And I think that players like Nuke, for example, really stand out because of that consistency that they've shown throughout the split. And I'm curious as to what we're going to see this time around. Now, I'm expecting a fight here.
Ooh, me too. Mickey jumps on in for it. It's the charm, or at least the ultimate popped out by Jackie's. Mickey's dead in it is, and IgNar picks it up. And Jackie's going to be pulled back in, but Yike doesn't have the damage follow-up. Caps has no mana. Sir, leave immediately. Yike has his flash, but doesn't want to pop it over the wall. Jackie's picks up another kill. Big mistake by G2.
GIANTX really taking advantage of this strong mid-jungle duo that they have. IgNar there to offer support as well. Jackie's going to connect another charm.
Caps, is he in trouble? No. He's going to walk this way out, but I mean, Jackie's is just going to be all over the map at this point.
2-0-1 for the Ahri. Caps is going to be able to sidestep that one, but you're right, big mistake there from G2. You just look at this comp, you're like, yeah, a lot of utility, a lot of front to back, there's a really strong front line, but at this point in the game, they're nothing really but paper to his Zhao. That man does not care. He is so strong in these early skirmishes. Nothing really happened to him in the patch, which means that he wasn't affected. He was very strong in the previous meta, he's still strong now. And GIANTX taking full advantage of that. Off to a great start. Have nearly a 1.5k gold lead. Patrick's suffering a little bit here, but he's doing all right.
What happens to G2's bottom lane? No, IgNar's been found out without a person. That cat needs a friend, but won't find one. Caps picked up the kill. IgNar caught in rotation. And guys, I know you can't see Dragon in the top right of your screen. There's 2 minutes till that comes up, so it's not going to lead to anything yet. But for G2, finding a pick like that felt like a free cigar.
Yeah, I mean, IgNar making a small mistake of his own, wandering through the river. There was always the old adage back in the day, Season 2, Season 3, always ward with a friend, you know?
Yeah.
And IgNar on Yuumi, that statement is ever more important.
Oh, yeah. Got a flash, so. That's rough. I mean, a good pick out, and Caps is the one that got the kill, too. So when we're just highlighting Jackie's now pick up Malignance as his first item, Caps has been able to match with the Luden's gun. So we're 1 for 1 here in items. The gold lead not as massive as it was before. Jackie's 500 ahead, but the fact that Caps is now sort of back in the game after getting pushed out with those heavy ganks is a good thing for G2.
And G2 definitely feeling a little more comfortable than they were moments ago. The gold gap not quite as significant. Items starting to come through for everyone now. You see the Youmuu's Ghostblade also picked up for Han Summer. On the top side of the map. Those first items not quite yet completed, but Broken Blade having a very comfortable laning phase.
Yep.
Back in the day, it was considered an old school counter. You can win wall the return of the boomerang, which then puts it on a very long cooldown. Also with so much mobility, it can just be very easy to close the gap against Gnar, while also just being able to kind of get a free laning phase, giving the freedom for Yasuo to just scale up and then be this massive side lane terror, as he often can be. And Odoamne doing what he can, but for the time being, he's just kind of forced to play to the beat of Broken Blade's drum.
Which is a good sign for Broken Blade. I'm also sure that if you press Sweeping Blade at the time Gnar's ulting, Gnar kind of has to be a little bit ahead of the curve for him to push the Yasuo into the wall. Otherwise, you sweep through him and you're actually okay.
Those mechanics are too nuanced for me, my friend.
That's okay.
We'll have to wait and find out, because
double check that
my experience on the Yasuo Gnar matchup is...
Last breath comes through. Odo takes a bit of damage. I'll tell you what's not nuanced. Watching Yasuo press the R button.
Oh, Yike, here he comes.
It sets up for Yike to come through now. No Yasuo. Oh, we just established that. The flash away for a Shadow Strike. Odo playing this well. There's the center ulti up as well. Odo times it again. Very well done. Yike's going to take another turret shot, and Odo brushed that off the shoulder.
Very well played. Jackie's in a bit of danger here.
Walty dodged away from... Saved for another day. Jackie's gets the charm in return. Orbit Deception comes through, and he dodges away from Caps once again. Mid gets exciting as Severing Bolt also knuckled down. G2 going to continue with the topside grubs in the meantime as Peach moves up, flashes for Caps, but the angle's not right. Caps gets away with it without burning his old summoner as G2, the rest of them, now have to find an escape route. It's a remount for Yike looking for the 1 HP grub. No one touches it. G2 gets 6 at the cost of Yike's life.
All right, a lot of skirmishing going on around the map. The dive tried to happen in the top lane. Odoamne navigates his way through that one and gets away with his life. Meanwhile, GIANTX cross map on the bot side to be able to secure themselves another dragon. In the mid lane, Caps and Jackie's going back and forth, a very close exchange, which doesn't result in either one going down, but an opportunity for Peach as he tried to flash in onto Caps to secure that kill. While Caps does get away, unfortunately, Yike was left stranded. He had no flash, he had no options to get out after securing the grubs. He does get his team all 6 though, so they will have that extra turret damage, but it will be at the cost of his life. And unfortunately for G2, that went over to Odoamne, so he's going to close that goal gap that was starting to build in favor of Broken Blade towards the top side.
The game hasn't been established here in this early game. There's been back and forth. There's, again, as you were saying, that objective topside take in, a couple of dragons for GX. We haven't had that definitive fight. We haven't had someone run away with it yet. We've got mid laners who are what you would say quite strong. Bottom laners who have yet to come into the equation as well. A Cat who's now looking at the back of an Ancient Warrior. We'll have to see. Herald is up in 20 seconds as a side note.
The big advantage that GIANTX have is that they should spike harder earlier. Which means that with the fact that they already have 2 dragons secured, the 3rd dragon is going to become a big point of contest. So in an ideal world, they can either force G2 into an earlier fight than when G2 want to, or they can put themselves on soul point and then they can threaten the soul, which is the ocean one, right? A very nice soul to have. So I think that GIANTX find themselves in a very fruitful position. They're setting themselves up nicely for the mid game.
Not again. Not again. You're joking. Not again. In the meantime, IgNar is caught without a friend. The Yuumi has popped the heal. I don't even think you would have done that. Caps gets another kill. IgNar, when he's on engage, is great, but so far, the Cat needs to go back in the bag.
Yeah, he thought that he would take the safer route this time through his jungle, but his jungle wasn't even safe. He gets caught out once more. Another kill donated over to Caps. I mean, he's going to be pretty happy about that, considering how favorably the laning went for Jackie's.
Yep.
Now Caps picking himself up 2 kills. The goal difference, 123 between the 2 mid laners, barely anything. But still, overall, in the grand scheme of things, not the end of the world for GIANTX, not the biggest advantage for G2, but definitely an advantage nonetheless.
Yeah. It's been a strange start to the series. With the draft we have, again, Betty, we already talked about it. You know, there's good scaling elements either way. You know, G2 especially, we know what Senna does. 35 stacks, by the way, guys. If you really peek in, 35 on the Senna. And just talking about those scaling elements, an item apiece for solo laners. Broken Blade also has the Kraken now, being matched with the Trinity up and topside by Odo. We've got first item on those AD carries as well, so we're getting there. Slowly but surely, we are getting there. And a side note, while we don't have the overlay at the moment, 1702 is the next dragon coming up. Ocean Soul this time as well.
Well, I'm impressed that you're keeping track of all those dragons.
You also did just say to help us out too. It's almost like we have someone helping me.
No.
I remember.
Yeah, you just remember. It's
I did the
impressive,
math.
the calculations that you made.
Isn't it just? Peach comes in for a partial engage, doesn't connect though. Patrik has now moved mid with the elongated bottom side. Just trying to open up the map a bit, get control before we have Dragon in less than a minute.
Cap's setting top lane, but he does have the TP available. Wards slowly being invested from either side. G2 have great control of the bot side of the map, whereas more of GIANTX's vision invested towards mid and top. They're trying to threaten this tower with the Herald. They're likely going to be able to take this one down.
Should be easy as now. Which way do we drive it? There we go. Peach has been clicking. He knows exactly what to do. And that'll open up mid, going the right way that GIANTX want to. Pushes him in a slight gold lead, but pushes him into an advantage as the drive away. Oh, might set them up for
make this happen?
I mean, this is a hard drift. The Herald's all over the place.
He drifts once.
Oh my
There's
god.
the second drift.
The third.
Oh. Wait, but that might be enough.
It might do with the charge.
Ah, Broken Blade gonna interrupt.
You gotta respect a man who's willing to take that challenge.
Yeah, I respect it. Now, this did unlock the bot river for GIANTX as well. Now it's G2 that have to claw back that control, but there's a lot of deep wards on the side of G2 that they could use for a potential TP flank, but GIANTX go in.
Engages there. It's Peach's damage that follows up with Patrik, the last chapter as well. Mikyx jumps in though. His Bramble Smash doing a bit of work, but Mickey's just zoned out. Patrik takes him. The last breath, does it bring it back? Well, Broken Blade seems to think so. He's picked up a double while Odo is zoned off because his team just got exploded. Broken Blade back here again onto the enemy top laner, finding a third kill. This Yasuo's not 0-3. This is nothing like solo queue.
G2, they're able to turn this fight in their favor. GIANTX with a great start. It looked very promising, but the moment that Yike re-engage came through, G2 is able to clean up the fight. Now you're going to start to see the scaling threats that is this G2 composition. TP coming in from GIANTX.
Patrik trying to steal. It is secured though. Hard against the Rell as Yike Hex flashes out over the wall. And Patrik gets rooted up on the back end. Dragon goes over. Fight goes over. Gold lead goes over. And we'll watch again, as you mentioned, it's that G2 re-engage that changed the play.
So Broken Blade is sitting bot lane. GIANTX say, you know what, we can actually force a fight here. Nice engage onto Caps. The exhaust gets thrown down. He flashes away. This Maokai ultimate creates so much space for G2 to reset. Now Hansam is safely on the back line. And then you see this great engage from Yike, followed by the ultimate from Caps, along with the ultimate from the Yasuo as well. Just sets up for an incredible wombo combo that swings the fight heavily in the favor of G2. GIANTX are forced to run away. And Broken Blade picks himself up another kill. You already highlighted 3-0-0 now for the Yasuo. And we talked about how this is the kind of window that GIANTX wanted to take advantage of. But G2, they navigated the fight better. And now the problem is that the scaling element, Senna, is only going to continue to ramp up. You can see on her champion portrait, her the small icon, that small number, indicates the number of souls that she has. Relatively low for the time being.
It's actually quite low, yeah.
But that's going to continue to ramp up. Caps in the mid lane also going to get stronger. Hwei scales incredibly well. He's going to do a huge amount of damage in the late game. So GIANTX are going to have to resort to finding picks, finding skirmishes in the side lanes, trying to catch G2 off guard with the power of this Ahri and this Xin. But we'll see how they navigate these fights, because now with that dragon secured, they don't have that threat of, oh, we can force G2 into another dragon fight. G2 can just use this time to scale more if they want to. Wait until they reach those second or even third items before they go for another exchange.
Which should be happening to him. I mean, Broken Blade is level 13. Yes, Odo the same, but 1.4k gold lead over his counterpart. It's just from that one fight, Broken Blade has now been unleashed. And we were talking about a man that had some games that made us question where he sits in the top laners of the LEC. It's nice to see him enter playoffs in a very big way. Kind of shut us up for a second as Baron spawns. And a side note, we are getting to IE second here for the Yasuo as well. Just picked up in the base. Oh, the cat's going to have to run farther to reach the other cat. Wait, are they family?
No, it's alpaca with that skin.
Oh, is it?
It's the death.
It's an alpaca?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No, I thought they were cats.
No, well, I mean, they can be in the meow skin. But this is the world skin, so because it's for it wasn't Pyosik, it was... I'm trying to remember, but it's the DRX skins. It's the DRX skins. So you have mini alpacas in the Maokai. I forget who the skin is for.
I can't help you, but I can't even remember my own name most mornings, Ben.
Yeah, those are small alpacas.
Yeah.
Ah!
It was indeed Pyosik. We almost died. You guys didn't hear that at home, but look, at the very least, sorry, wow, definitely Pyosik. G2, they're the ones waiting up this top side because it's GIANTX making the play, but they're holding it under turret. The Spiraling Despair starts it off. Odo is just punished against the wall. Caps picks up the kill. Look at the damage from Hwei already. There's the Charm trying to get Yike as G2 are on the chase. And they've got the health to do it. Nature's Grasp flies through. It lands on 2. Peach is isolated. Has IgNar, but Mikyx the one who can tank up the damage. Jackies runs in with a Spirit Rush, but Hansama kites away, heals up as well. We aren't going to get the claw from Caps as they get poked out, but G2 are looking again.
The dance continues back and forth. Broken Blade continues to push on bot lane. Mikyx may have overstepped his bounds.
Has he indeed? Well, there's the teleport coming through to save Mikyx's life. He flashes away. It's Rell again setting up, but Broken Blade isn't there until he is. Hansama gets a kill. Jackie runs away. Peach is sniped out from downtown. A severing bolt, severing lifeline. Severs the game. One, it feels like at this point, with how they're running away. Jackie's narrowly escaping the Shattering Strike, but G2 get another fight in their back pocket.
Wow, G2, they find another fight in their favor. I thought they were going to threaten the Baron. They're not going to gamble it. Broken Blade playing at the very edge of the tower's range there. Will get hit by the shot, but GIANTX, it feels like that they're running out of options in these fights. Multiple points, it felt like G2 were overstepping their bounds. Like this one in particular, I'm like, Mikyx, I don't think that this is the position you want to be in. But the TP then comes through, he re-engages, he gets a heal from the passive, Yike then acts as the front line. And look at the positioning of Caps and Hansama, fully utilizing their range to stay well out of harm's way. And I mean, the fact that Caps got that kill onto Peach, the QW just has such a long range, it's so difficult to escape from it. And this is the threat of that front to back, and who gets in the thick of things with that front line that's engaging? It's Broken Blades. You have multiple sources of threat that GIANTX have to navigate. And truth be told, they've only got a lot of single target damage, right? They've just got to find that pick, they've got to get that kill, and they've got to use numbers advantage to turn in their favor. But even in a 4v4, Broken Blade wasn't even in the fight, and they were still getting bullied away.
It's so rough, wasn't it? Broken Blade again setting up. That ult not coming through. Does he need to, though? Peach is stuck in the middle. Another kill over to Hazaki. Oh, you do actually. He's able to get in the house. Jackie's is going to Spirit Rush away, though. Now you're stuck in a 5 versus 4. And Dragon is up sitting, staring them in the face. And GIANTX are like, what can we do? We've just lost our jungler.
I mean, not a lot, is the truth.
Okay. Glad you're being honest.
They have their eyes focused on the mid lane.
God, that severing bolt at this point.
They're chasing the movement speed.
Ulti comes through, Jackie sidestep, bolt again. The cooldown ain't too much.
What can you do? He has the flash.
What can you do? Oh, Patrik's dead now as well. It's gone from okay to bad to worse for GIANTX. Every fight now is looking more dominating than the last. There's a Yasuo who's 5-0 and 1. He's 3,000 gold over Odo.
A frustrating game for GIANTX.
Save him.
Oh, what? The damage is crazy!
I did not expect that. He's got Horizon focus. That's probably something to do with it.
We talk about the Yasuo scoreline, 6-0-5 for Caps. He's been involved in 11 of the team's 12 kills. Same for Hansama. I mean, yeah.
It was a Yuumi, I guess, but still, like, that cat is dead.
I mean, it's crazy that they just kept chasing this play. Jackie's did have the flash. I guess he thought that he could walk out of range of it. But then the Maokai ultimate to boot. GIANTX needed to take advantage of that strong start. They needed to find a way to use this Ahri and Xin combo to keep forcing skirmishes, these 2v2s, these 3v3s, and snowballing from there. Because you get to this point and... yeah.
Wow. He knows. From age, like, I don't think any of us really expected it.
I mean, it is, of course, only a level 10 Yuumi.
That's also
but
true.
Still, that damage.
Oh, there it is. For the whole game, that damage has been ridiculous. I mean, this is what we know about Hwei. Scaling mage, you don't have mobility, so naturally in the game, how do you compensate for that? Well, you're going to have a lot of damage, and when you land hard. I mean, the biggest thing as well, people don't remember, or at least maybe don't know, severing bolts and execute as well.
Oh, it is.
That's
a
why
great
it does
point.
so much.
Yeah.
So again, looks good as Yike, maybe not. Hexflash going to be interrupted. They've found the G2 jungler without a horse. It's not amazing. Jackie's able to pick up a kill. 3-2-2. Okay, it's a good pick for GIANTX. Remembering that Baron is not available. G2 took it before, so that objective not being on the board means that maybe G2 is safe with that small mistake.
Definitely will buy a bit of time.
Well, indeed.
GIANTX, but the problem is G2 have a wave topside. They're immediately going to move to it, unlock this tower. The GIANTX would love to try and force something, knowing that they have a numbers advantage.
I'd be scared though. Peach, as he runs in, I would still be scared.
It's isolated from his team.
It's a Yasuo. He's going to sit in the bubble. Hunsummer repositions. Mikyx now out of position. Senna's fate does not help the position at all. Broken Blade getting zoned out. He might die as well. Okay, hold the phone. It's G2 things, but it's happening in the mid game, not the early game this time around. Hunsummer nukes Jackie's though. What are we watching? Severing Bolt comes through. Somehow Jackie's died, and now Patrik runs in. Cap's getting zoned out. He flashes away. What is this? Yes, Yike indeed is back. Patrik here. He flashes over. Shattering Strike. He gets out with an Archangel. Odoamne's joining in. All right, new challenger. Who's up next? Caps gets the kill. G2 back in control. Should I be looking for anyone else? Jackie's is 15 seconds off with a teleport. And that was that.
That was that.
That was that.
Ezreal ult, won't find Caps. Okay, so, I mean, that was a big int from G2. I think GIANTX did exactly what they needed to do. They found that initial pick onto Yike. They know they have a numbers advantage, so they keep trying to force this fight with their numbers. They force a fight here. This wind wall, though, is so obnoxious. The Maokai ultimate as well. Peach is forced to flash away, but the Yuumi keeps him alive. Then Mikyx gets caught out, and you're like, right. Now G2 have really overcommitted to this play. This is a big opportunity for GIANTX. They continue the chase. I don't think it's unreasonable for Jackie to think I can get more here. He just was not expecting that kind of damage. So then GIANTX have said, okay, fine, we'll disengage. Patrik said, hang on, they've overstepped. We'll re-engage. It's 2 versus 3. We can fight this. But the range from G2 is so obnoxious that they buy enough time for Yike to show up. Yike's like, okay, we can get the kill. Then Odoamne says, no, no, no. We'll create a numbers advantage again, turning into a 4 versus 3. But no, Patrick's too whole health. He's forced to run away. G2 get themselves another kill. And I don't know who won that fight in the end.
We did. The viewers, us. We won it.
But no objectives ended up going down in that, well, mess.
Yep.
And, well, G2 also wasted the Baron. So that's the good news for GIANTX. They've been able to buy themselves a little bit more time. Maybe they can find another opportunity. The bad news for GIANTX is Caps has now completed Death Cap. He was already doing damage, and now he will do more.
He will indeed. Is there anything good on GIANTX we can talk about? Anything exciting there? We've got a Cosmic Drive for Jackies, which, you know, the base movement speed now gives us is good with Spirit Rush.
I'd love to, like, give more positive points for GIANTX. Unfortunately, their mid laner is 2 levels down, their AD carry is 2 levels down. Their jungler is looking to be, like, one of the strongest members right now, alongside the Ahri, but I don't actually know if GIANTX have enough damage to kill anyone, even if they do catch them out. Like, they have to catch them completely isolated. Yeah, they're very much relying on G2 to make a mistake at this point, especially as G2 will only continue to scale as the game goes on. We're now at 84 stacks on the Senna.
It is. That's not the highest.
Well, no, I mean, AD carry, you traditionally have less, right?
True, Vedius. Very true. I'm just used to seeing double support regardless, so I was like,
That's
oh,
a fair point, yeah.
You know, it wasn't a Senna fasting lane at all. Senna 80 carry lane.
Yep.
You're very smart as teleport comes through. This is Hwei. Caps is joining in the fray. Now, GIANTX are trying to walk into River. We're going to see how this one goes, because as we've seen the last couple of fights, despite G2 throwing away the last one, they are still very strong. As mentioned, Broken Blade gets poked out, though. Vedius said early on, single target damage is big from GIANTX. They kind of need Odo to be a part of it as well, especially in Gnar. That's stacking up. G2, if they get hit in a choke, Odo can bring the game back. But it's a big if right now as Dragon spawns staring in front of them. They want a third ocean. And GIANTX are trying to pop their little head in. We're waiting for the engage. Gnar's there. Miky's like, okay, Nature's Grasp. Let's go on the Gnar. Will he be able to get his perfect ult? Not at all. Broken Blade with one mana, though. In the meantime, Caps ran up as Hwei. Ain't none of that Hwei. As Peach has to ulti out, but Flash as well as Broken Blade matches him. A double over to Hansama. It looks so janky, but G2 just have so much power.
The comps are just... One is just so much stronger than the other at this point in the game.
He scaled.
GIANTX are doing what they can to force their way in, but G2 are just not giving them any windows. You look at the HP piles across the side of G2, and they're barely dented. They're going to start off this Baron, and it definitely feels like that this is G2's game to lose at this point. GIANTX, they do have a series, of course. There's an opportunity for them to try and find ways to bounce back moving into game 2. But yeah, I think that they were not expecting this level of scaling and also flexibility in the draft. So many questions.
Oh,
Patrik,
the prediction spiraling, despair prediction. The bolt isn't there for Caps. He pressed R. There's a lot of damage. Passive goes off. Level 18 play, ladies and gentlemen, with 3 items and an X on his hourglass, or at least soon to be, I should say. Top turret's going to go down on top of that with the Baron in their pocket. You say yike, I say yes. Shattering Strike, his engage is great on the Rell, as we know and love. Broken Blade has now made himself in with the teleport as well, the flip back, and another one bites at us. Peach can't get in at this game. We were hyping this up, especially early on, but at 31 minutes, it is now as one-sided gets as Broken Blade runs in. Under turret, is he going to die? No, he doesn't. He heals up with the Immortal Shield Bow, and they're going to have another crack.
Mikyx as well, just barely keeping him alive. The bolt is enough.
Oh my lord, 10-0 and 8. I don't know what happens draft for game 2, but I know that G2 have put them through a whirlwind as they open up their playoffs here in winter with a very devastating game. You can take that as you will.
10-0-9 for Caps, 6-0-14 for Hansama. A very impressive performance from the G2 carries, and GIANTX definitely going to have to go back to the drawing board.
Oh yes, in this best of 3, we're going to take a short break. When we return, let's hope we get a draft like that right after this.
Wow, this is amazing.
I mean, I had a break, so... do you want to try? I'll be right back.
I want to try. Me? Maybe. What am I going to do?
Even the biggest champ needs a break.
Wow! Vedi! Incroyable, magnifique! What? No! What are you doing? What are you doing? No, keep it! It was so good!
Yours was better.
Red Bull gives you wings.